just like start the recording now, because then oh look, now I can, whenever I want to share the last 30 seconds, I can do that on Twitter or Facebook apparently. All right, so who else is here? Let's see, Alexander. I don't know how this thing scrolls down. All right. I think I said hello to everybody who's in here so far. If you see any comments that pop up in the right-hand corner over here that catch your eye on the right-hand side of the screen, just let me know. Because if I get, you know how when I get into my turbo flow talking mode.
The comments come on the iPad on the bottom, and I'd have to put the iPad down to type on it.
No. You don't have to reply.
Right.
You don't have to do anything except sit there.
I'm so good at that.
I'm just saying, if you happen to see, do you see me at the platform? Yes, you're on, Alexander. I see you. You're not on the video, but you're on the chat screen. So yes, you're live. So if you post, if anybody wants to ask any questions, if you click on the send a message box at the lower right-hand corner of your screen, actually, I just want to pause this. All right, so I'm doing an introduction. Welcome to my blab, my first ever blab. And welcome Betsy. This is Betsy Saka, and she's a friend of mine, and she and I did an interview on Gaiam TV a couple months ago, which is a huge internet subscription-based TV station. So you can go on there and subscribe, and you get to see all these really cool videos with some amazing authors and other people like that. So we are actually tonight going to be talking about color and flow state, and how you can use color to catalyze flow state, how you can use color to enhance all kinds of aspects of your life. Color and flow state increase creativity, productivity, reduce stress and anxiety, and heal the physical body, help emotionally. There's a whole long list of things that they do. We're going to be talking about a number of them in kind of an informal chat session, because Betsy and I get on the phone or on video chat, and we can talk for hours. So we thought it would be a good way to share some of this with everybody else. And oops, I've got tweeting happening. Good, I think I've muted my phone. Okay. All right, so let's see. What do we want to start with? Should we start with talking about what color is?
I wanted to tell you that I went to a spa and they had a color room.
They had a color room? Like you could go in and experience different colors? Very cool.
They had a salt room, far infrared. They had all types of saunas. And then they had a color room, and I was blown away, and I forgot to take a picture of it for you. I'm sorry. But there was white, yellow. They didn't really explain anything but, what the color would do, improve your mood, or, make your body function better. But it wasn't so technical. But yeah, it was like, I was reading it going, oh my God, Leanne would bug out if she read, the explanations of red and blue and yellow.
Was it good or was it good?
It was great, and there was no one in it but me, because I don't think people quite understood the benefits, or because it didn't really explain. Okay,
well, why don't we talk about how color and light heal? So we can start with that. Okay. So, well, from when we did the interview, that like for everybody who's watching, color and light, first of all, the same thing. You can't have color without light, and you can't have light without color. So all the colors in my kitchen here behind me, you would not be able to see them if I turned off all the lights. And I was gonna just do it right now, but I think I'll not do that. But anyway, you can't see color if you don't have light, and you can't. All light has color within it. So the lights that are above me, for example, have a broad spectrum. They kind of have a daylight arc, so it's got all of the colors in it. A lot of bulbs have just a predominance of yellowish tones. Cool blue fluorescents have a predominance of blue light in them. But all light, whether it's coming from sunlight or artificial light, has colors within it. And when those colors combine together, it forms white light. So when you go under sunlight, you get to see all of the spectrum of light. All the different colors are found within sunlight. So you see that effect anytime you get a rainbow effect. So when you see a rainbow in the sky, that's when you see all of those 7 spectral colors that split up. They get refracted and reflected in the raindrops. Anyway, so does that clarify pretty much?
It does. It was interesting. When I went there, I asked the woman who gave us a tour, I said, oh, will you tell us what all the colors are for healing purposes? She said, well, you know, if you don't know what the colors are, she goes, just sit under the white. It has all the colors.
Uh-huh.
So she just didn't know. So she said, sit under the white.
Right.
That's what she said. Well, I said, okay.
The reason that you want to sometimes use specific colors as opposed to just white light, which has all of them, because different colors of light elicit different healing properties in the body. So for example, red light, it has very strong healing properties. It stimulates mitochondria in the cells, which are the powerhouses of the cells. So anytime, like, you can take a red light, like I've got one here, which will be kind of blinding probably. This, do you see it? It's very bright. Yeah. This is one of my light therapy lights. So when you shine red light on your body, it actually stimulates the powerhouses of the cells to kick into gear. So it can heal wounds more quickly. It will generate bone more quickly. People use it for treating arthritis. Collagen stimulation, it's used in spas. People can do it at home for anti-aging treatments, gets rid of wrinkles. Because what it's doing is it's making the cells kick into gear and start working when they've been kind of not doing their job completely. Or
it's not like he's shaking them awake, saying, wake up, do your job.
Yeah, exactly. Like somebody lying in bed in the morning going, get up, it's time. So, yeah. Anyway, so the cell, red light and near infrared. Far infrared doesn't have the same effects, but near infrared has the same kind of healing properties as red light. All the different wavelengths, I mean, there's been tons of research on this. This is all validated by scientific research. So, but red and near infrared have this stimulating mitochondrial effect. So I'm trying to think of some other regular everyday applications. Like I said, people, if you have any kind of infection in your mouth, NASA's been doing a lot of research since 2001 on using it for, well, first of all, wound healing, and then they've been doing studies on when people develop, you know, the not canker sores, but
herpes.
No, just from chemotherapy treatments. People often, because their immune system gets completely shot, so they're doing studies with that. But there are thousands of studies about this all around the world, where different wavelengths of light elicit different healing properties. So red light, that's one example. Simply looking at the color red will have the same kind of stimulating effect, but just by absorbing the color wavelengths through your eyes, and remember, color and light are the same thing. So when you look at something that's red, like this red phone case, there's not very much on it, but that's light that's coming into your eyes. So this phone case is actually reflecting red wavelengths of light back into my eyes. So the photons are coming into my eyes. So
you think that's why people are so attracted to artwork sometimes? They just can't stop looking at it. They're just mesmerized by it.
Yeah, they're actually
affected by it so strongly.
Yeah, there's a NASA psychologist that did a study on this specifically about artwork, the healing properties of artwork. There have actually been a lot of research studies done about artwork, simply looking at artwork, and but she found that the most healing types of artwork are the ones that resemble landscape. So I think that's one of the reasons that my paintings are really popular, because they, even though they're abstract paintings, they look like landscapes. And the other requirement is that they draw you into the painting. So people kind of get into this altered state because you're able to go into the artwork. It draws you in. So it's about the composition, it's about the colors. So there are certain types of artwork that have profound healing effects, and then others that aren't as strong. You're still going to get the benefits from the colors in the paintings if they're pure colors, but not as strong as these type of, like landscape. But yeah, there have been a bunch of research studies just done on even looking at art. There was a guy that just very recently did a study and found that a lot more people now that are actually analyzing the brains of people when they have these experiences with art. So they do MRI readings, and that this guy found that what happens when people are looking at art, it's stimulating endorphins. So it actually stimulates that effect of when people are in love. So it gives you this feel good sensation. But there are even more profound effects from creating art. So if you're creating what's called personal art, that's one of the things that I teach in my flow training program. We're actually using color and art, but you don't have to have art experience to be able to do it. So it's like, you get all the benefits, and then your brain actually changes. It actually heals the brain. There's what's called the default mode network in our brains. I wish that it would be great if I could do
an illustration, right?
Everything is so visual for me, and I like having pictures. I actually on my website, I'm going to put this up here now. What is a good color for concentration? Oh, I'll answer that. Oh, my mouse went to sleep. I'm going to put my my website up here. There's creative flow. Oops.
You notice how you just feel better when there's a blue sky, when you just step outside and there's that beautiful blue sky. You just breathe better, and then when you go outside and it's one of those overcast cloudy days, and you're just like, your energy is not even the same.
Yeah, well, the thing about blue light specifically, let's talk about blue light for a few minutes. Well, let me finish the part about the creating art first, because it's pretty fascinating that there's what's called the default mode network in the brain, and all different parts of our brain are actually connected. There are these connections that integrate different parts of the brain, and what happens for different reasons, usually as people start to age, and depending on lifestyle and that sort of thing, these connections start to break down. So they're not functioning as well. So people will end up having situations like poor memory, focus and concentration. To answer Dan's question. I'll tell you about a color though. And also things like stress and chronic pain are related to when the connections in the default mode network start to break down. So creating personal art that is personal to you, actually repairs and reverses the damage that's been done in the default mode network.
That's amazing. That's unbelievable.
I know. It's like in the study that was done in Germany, it was like less than 10 weeks that they did. And this was with a group of retired people. They were aged 60 to 67 years old. So these were older people. And even at that age and beyond, they had these dramatic changes, reversal in, default mode network break.
It's actually not even looking at the color. It's also painting and using the color that's therapeutic.
Yes. Yeah. And you don't have to use paint. I don't use paint in my training program. In my workshops, we're using something. So we're bypassing the whole learning curve. You immediately get into flow state as soon as you start doing the exercise. So, the other thing that the default mode network is associated with is, what?
I'm blown away. Only because
what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry. Could you imagine all these people are going to
Network.
therapy? They're going to therapists. They're taking medications.
Yes.
And all they really have to do is a little color therapy.
Yeah, no, and like also the whole self-awareness thing is connected with that. The connections that are associated with the ability to be introspective, and which is huge in our ability to relate to other people, because if you're able to tap in and understand what's going on with yourself, your ability to connect with other people and not project your stuff onto them, yeah, is dramatically improved. So all this stuff. So that's creating art. They also, Harvard did a study just talking about the brain. Harvard did a study of people who for 8 weeks did some kind of mindfulness practice. And mindfulness can be anything like, I mean, flow state is another word for mindfulness. So tapping into flow is like deep mindfulness, meditation, yoga, any kind of practice like that that puts you into that zone, which is, I'm going to be calling it flow state, but there are lots of names for it. Anything that puts you into that zone on a regular basis. Harvard did this study with people that practiced, and it was an average of 27 minutes a day. And after 8 weeks, their brains dramatically changed. And this wasn't just with the default mode network, the connections. This was actual areas of the brain that got bigger. So the areas that were associated with memory, learning, concentration, self-awareness, and introspection all got bigger, meaning that there's more neural activity going on in those areas because there's more geography, more gray matter for the neural processing to happen. And what was happening is that even when they weren't doing the mindfulness exercise, activity in those areas of the brain was dramatically increased, even when they weren't doing it.
So are you saying that people are more conscious of what they're doing when they're awake and aware of their surroundings? They're more conscious.
Yeah. So anytime, and so it's not just while you're in the middle of that activity, it flows over into the rest of your life. So the way that you deal with stress is completely different. You're just calm. You don't have these trigger reactions.
So that's not the fight and flight. You're not constantly just reacting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And they actually have known about this for a number of years. I can't remember when the very first study was done. They actually analyzed the brains of meditating monks. And so what I was saying is that these areas of the brain that get bigger, memory, concentration, learning, self-awareness, introspection, and empathy. Did I mention empathy last time? Empathy is our ability to tune in with other people and feel what they're feeling. So those areas get bigger. The areas that are associated with stress and anxiety get smaller. They shrink. So to answer your question about that fight or flight response, no, you don't have the same reaction like you used to. It's just
short-tempered. Your fuse is not going to be as short as it is.
Exactly.
People with anger management,
right,
should do this for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Anybody because usually when somebody's like flying off the handle about something, they're having a reaction to something. They're not tuning in. It's like, why am I? Because it's a fight or flight response, right? They're feeling threatened, whether or not it's a real threat, and often it's not a real threat.
There's not that many tigers.
Right. Exactly. We're not being threatened by the tigers anymore. They're not like about to hunt us down. But we associate it with something that may have happened in our past where we felt, vulnerable, or, where it was a dangerous situation, or we felt like our emotions were.
So our default mode is to have high anxiety, to get very stressed, and then probably we're not reacting in our own best interest.
I don't think that's the default mode of people. I think that's kind of what's been a learned mode. I think our default mode is, calm, zen. And then because of, all the expectations that are placed upon us and pressure that we put on ourselves, because we have this belief that we're supposed to do things a certain way and behave a certain way and have a certain
expectations.
Yeah. And people are expecting me to have a big dinner and, stuff like that. So
stress.
Anyway. Yeah, sorry. So you don't have that same kind of reaction. So what I was saying about the monks, they had analyzed several years ago, they'd done a study on monks who, you know, pretty much have been meditating their whole lives. And they found that their brains had these characteristics, like these bigger memory, learning, empathy, all of that stuff, and then the less stress. They don't have the same startle response. So Harvard wanted to see what would happen if they took people who have never done any kind of mindfulness or flow state practice and see if their brains did the same thing. And they, sure enough, they did in 8 weeks. So it took very little time to actually change the gray matter in the brain. And that other study with the default mode network, that was done in Germany. That was done over the course of 10 weeks with retired people who were creating art. So they're using color and art, the act of creating art. I believe that there's, I mean, because you're getting into flow state while you're doing it, but the kinesthetic effect together with the visual effect of taking in the color and all of that together, you're combining different senses, which means you're triggering different parts of your brain. So there's this really profound healing effect. And I actually came across this technique intuitively when I started painting, because I'd been getting into flow throughout my life. I trained as a classical pianist when I was little, so I'd get into flow state through my music. Another name for flow is the zone, if I didn't mention that. So I'd get into flow state with my music by going out in nature. I was always drawing. I was writing all the time. I was supposed to be a writer, according to all my teachers. So I would get into flow all the time. But it was through doing one of these activities, and it wasn't always this instant, you know, get into flow. It'd be like, you know, work at it for half an hour, and then you kind of drop into flow. And the more you do something, the faster you can get into flow. But when I started painting 8 years ago, my like I was a total beginner painter, and my very first abstract paintings, I don't know, I got this intuitive sense, like, you know, see what happens if you use the colors that you're drawn to. Because I'd already been studying for about 20 years at that point, maybe not that long, but all of this stuff about color and light. I'd already been, you know, studying all these alternative healing modalities while I lived in Italy. And I knew about how profoundly we respond to color. And I'd never used color in any of my art or drawings or anything like that. I'd always used to draw in black and white, pencil or one colored ink. I don't know why, I just never used color. So as soon as I started painting, I just got this message, you know, just use the colors that you're drawn to, because I knew that, you know, it's like if we're drawn to certain colors, that means that we actually need them, like vitamins. So we have these color cravings. So I started working with the colors that I was really drawn to, and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't stop staring at these colors as I'm mixing them and, you know, combining these different colors on the palette. And I just got catapulted into flow state. And I started painting, and I was a beginner painter. I didn't know like what I was doing. I knew how to mix paint and use a brush, but anyway, and I was like, I channeled something through that flow state, and I started creating these paintings that within my first couple of months, I was getting contacted by international curators, international magazines, and people like, and the weird thing is that they were finding my brand new website. Like all I did, I had like 10 images and I put up a brand new website. And people were finding me from other parts of the world in this like sea of websites. And it was just really bizarre to me at the time. And now I understand the science and all the research that supports what was happening. But at the time it was very perplexing to me, because I just didn't know why and how these people could possibly be finding me. But it's actually, when you get into flow state often and on a regular basis, you're actually kind of, you're tapping into this unlimited energy,
collective unconscious.
Yeah, collective unconscious. Yeah, and some people call it, you know, some people call it God. There are lots of names for it, whether, you know, limitless energy source. But you're tapping into that, and you're also tuning in with your core self. So you kind of open up this channel.
It's like you're plugged into all that is, and you have access.
Yeah.
To and both ways.
Yes, both directions. So when you are, you have a thought, or you're in flow and you're putting out this energy out into the world, and people out there are being magnetically drawn to it, and they're kind of attracted to that same energy. So that's where the word synchronicity, you know this term, it's a Jungian term, right? So Carl Jung, father of Jungian psychology, he coined this phrase synchronicity, which means meaningful coincidence, in that it's not really a coincidence. There's actually something that's happening to make this connection. So you happen to be, you know, thinking of a friend from high school, and you haven't thought about this friend in, I don't know, 10, 15 years, and then she calls you on the phone, or she friends you on Facebook all of a sudden, and you're like, holy cow, that's weird. That's synchronicity. So you're tapping in, you're putting that energy out there, and she's picking up on it, and then like, oh, let me see if I can find Betsy on Facebook.
Well, people say that, oh yeah, that's psychic, but since it happens sporadically here and there, they don't think that they're psychic. They just think, you know, oh, that's something that psychics can do.
Well,
but yeah, everyone can do it.
We all have that ability. We all have that ability to be able to tap in, and it's something that we used to do spontaneously every night. This was another research study that was done probably about 10 years ago. This guy analyzed people. He took a group of people and isolated them in that they got daylight during daytime hours, and they were not exposed to any artificial light source at all. So they had to follow the cycles of nature. So when it got dark, they didn't have candles or artificial light or anything. It was just like, now it's dark outside, so we're going to go to sleep. So what he found was that for the first few weeks of doing this, people, nothing remarkable happened other than the fact that everybody across the board slept a little bit longer, like an hour longer. And then after 3 weeks, though, everybody shifted into this mode where they started sleeping for 4 hours. Then they woke up in the middle of the night, and they had this kind of altered state, you know, awareness, where they were in this deep mindfulness flow state spontaneously every night, and they had all these insights and great ideas, and they're kind of like between sleep and wakefulness, and that would last for 2 hours, and then they would go back to sleep. And that was what we used to do. Like our paleo ancestors used to do that every night. This is what they assume. They hypothesize that because when we don't have exposure to artificial light, we go back into this default way that we used to sleep and have flow state every night. And what's happening when you're in flow state, you're actually, the right side of the brain is getting activated. So when you are in deep mindfulness, anything like that, that's all right brain activity. When you have no sense of time, you're not thinking about numbers and stuff like that, that's all left brain. You're having this experience, you're 100% present and hyper focused also. I mean, and you can bring flow state into your left brain activities. I'll talk about that later. But so you have this clarity, and it's this feeling of bliss. You're just like, it feels amazing when you're in flow, and you have no sense of time. So you can be working on something and like, oh my God, it's like several hours later, and you like so much energy too. It's like this limitless energy because you're channeling this energy. But anyway, so yeah, it just it has all of these benefits that come through.
So people can get into the state many different ways, but you've perfected a way to get into it easily, quickly.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
And it was because of what I discovered through my own painting process, and because I was, you know, like I said, I'd had experience with flow, but it wasn't until I started working with color that's when it was like turbo flow. Like you just get catapulted into flow state, and you get taken along for this ride. And so what's happening is that you do need these color energies. We actually crave the different color energies. And when we're out of balance, different organ systems, different meridians, these energy channels that are in our bodies, need different colors to kind of bring them back into balance. And this is all based on biophysics and biophotonics, which is a whole school of research that's been going on around the world. So we actually need these different colored wavelengths to have optimal health and healing in our body. And when you are deficient in one, you will have a craving. You'll kind of find yourself wanting to be around these colors, like, oh my God, I can't get enough green right now, or I'm like really craving the color red, whatever it is. So that craving is just like if you're craving an orange when you're starting to come down with a cold. You know, like if you're...
I've never heard any of my friends go, oh, I just can't get enough green today. But just, I don't know what's with it. What's with me? I just can't get enough.
It might manifest as like they go shopping and everything they buy is like, okay, I've got a green purse and now I've got a green...
But I think that most people are not aware of any of this, you know.
No, but a lot of times they do. If you ask them about it, they'll like, have you been finding that you're really attracted to a certain color lately? And they'll be,
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that this week. I'm going to take a survey and ask them, just because I want to know if there's anything that we can get them active, if we can activate their abilities to heal themselves with some color.
Yes. Yeah.
Start that process.
So you can actually, it's really simple. You can actually just bring, if you're craving a certain color, you can bring it into your environment. So I often use the examples of red and blue because people are pretty familiar with how, you know, how you were saying that the blue sky, it's relaxing, it calms you down, but it's energizing at the same time. But if it's a gray sky, you feel kind of, you know, blah. And red is a stimulating color. You know what I was talking about, shining red light on your skin stimulates the mitochondria. If you just look at the color red, it's been scientifically proven to stimulate what's called the sympathetic nervous system, which is that fight or flight response. So it speeds up heart rate, increases blood flow, increases blood pressure. It gets you, it's basically, think of a caveman, you know, and he's got the saber-toothed tiger. I don't know if they actually existed at the same time, but he's being chased by this giant whatever creature that may or may not exist anymore. So the fight or flight response is the survival mechanism.
How do we know what we're deficient in if we're not able to say what we're attracted to? I mean, not everybody's walking around going, I really need green, I really need it. So how do we know we're deficient in green or we're lacking? Most
people, when you point it out to them, they'll start becoming aware of what they're attracted to. I mean, if they're not already. And if it's something that's different from their usual color, it will often kind of be perplexing to them. Like if green is kind of one that comes up a lot where people are like, I don't normally like green, but I'm really feeling drawn to green lately. And green is one of those colors when people are unusually drawn to it. It's often that they're going through some kind of crossroads, like they have to make a decision, like which direction should I go, this way or this way? Because green gives you clear judgment. It's a balancing color, so it gives you the ability to make decisions. And from a Chinese 5 elements perspective, it has to do with this ability to know what your know what your direction is like in life is. It's going to be like, I'm seeing like all these little hands popping up. So I'm like getting distracted by the high fives, which are very cute, by the way. It's kind of like, yeah.
I see nothing. I don't see what you see.
I'm going to give you some high fives. Wait, where's my mouse? It goes dormant. Here.
It's just very interesting only because there are so many different ways to help the body heal. And this is such an amazing way, all of it. And I don't see people doing it. It's almost like they're like, okay, let me give you a pill, or let me give you a shot. Let me give you a, something to swallow, or let me inject something inside of you. Oh, no. Let's not try something that's been around for tens of thousands of years. Let's not go there. That we can't. It's voodoo.
Unfortunately, the Western medical system is based on making money. It's not based on healing or making people well.
Right.
It's based on profit. And, regardless of, it's like, the whole pharmaceutical industry, it's all about dispensing pills and performing surgeries. So, and you can't patent light. So you can't make very much money from healing people using light, because as soon as you say, here, I'm going to like use this red light on you, because I share it with everybody. It's like red light, use it for healing. But you're not going to go to a doctor and he's going to tell you, just take a red light, like this one.
Right.
There's so much that you can heal in the body just using a red light like this. This is a particularly powerful one.
Yeah, send me one of those.
I will if you want.
I do.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's like I've never found one this strong before. This is like super, super powerful. I actually have a page on my website. I have like a really small number of these. I managed to get some from the manufacturer, and so on my, I'll put a link to this page if people want to know more about light therapy.
I think once we begin to understand that we are in control of our own health, and we don't want to give our power away to say that someone else is going to have the ability to heal us, that we can do it ourselves.
Yeah, well,
and it's a completely different way of thinking.
The powers that be aren't very interested in informing people about how they can fix themselves and not pay them any more money.
That's why we have you.
That's right. That's why, that's what I'm passionate about, is like helping people. So this has information about color therapy and light therapy tools that people can read, like how to find really inexpensive ones. So you don't have to, there are all sorts of things that you don't have to take a pill for anymore. Okay, so some other things that red light is good for. It's, like I said, it stimulates the mitochondria in the cells. By the way, I'm going to get to some of these questions that are on the left afterwards, but so you don't think I'm ignoring you. I'm in a flow of conversation right now. So the healing wounds, accelerated bone healing, arthritis, and this applies to red and near infrared whenever you're talking about joints or bones that are deeper in the body. But for hands and feet, broken bones, joints that are in the hands and feet, anywhere that's close to the surface, you can use red or near infrared.
How long do you do that for?
Okay, so depending on what you're treating, I usually tell people anything that's close to the surface, like 3 minutes. And it's better to do multiple treatments per day rather than one long treatment. Mm-hmm. So if you're using red light for stimulating collagen, for example, you want to get rid of wrinkles on your face, you can do 3-minute treatments. You can do 1 3-minute treatment per day, or you can do 2 3-minute treatments, and it'll give you even faster results. If you're using it for healing a wound, or eczema or psoriasis, it works for all these types of things. And these have been researched. This has all been validated by scientific research. I've also done a lot of my own testing. I have people that I work with and patients that I work with that, ask me to treat different things. And I'm like, here.
Psoriasis, red light is for psoriasis. A lot of people have that stuff on their elbow. What's that? That's psoriasis?
There's one word in Western medicine for all sorts of different things that may have a different root cause. So when I'm working with somebody, I do like a full intake. I find out what is the root of this, because you might have a dry scaly patch on your arm and it may be, the root cause may be something, or another person may have a similar kind of dry patch on their arm and it may be a completely different root cause. But Western medicine only has one name for it. So I'm just using the common Western names for.
Gotcha. I understand.
So you kind of have to look and see what is out of balance and what the root is. Where did it start? And then you treat the root cause, and all the other problems go away. But you can still use light therapy for treating problems that may, even if you don't resolve the root cause, and it may come back later if you don't, if the root isn't resolved. But it will still get rid of the problem while it's active.
In our world, it's very hard to find the root problem because no one wants to take the time. Everyone's just busy and running and doing. And
well, it's not hard. You have to go to somebody that knows how to do that.
okay.
I used to be an acupuncturist and Zen Shiatsu
Right.
practitioner. So I spent years studying this stuff, and then I worked with cancer patients. And so it does require education. It's like going to medical school. So
yeah, but you have to ask a lot of questions, and you have to take the time.
well, you just have to find somebody that you can work with that actually can help you. So, and what often is the case though is that people, like, they have a limited
Right.
insurance plan, and their insurance plan doesn't approve for anything that isn't going to your Western doctor, and they won't do it because their insurance doesn't cover it. But it's like, you're actually paying for that insurance. People think that it's a perk with their job, and it's like, but I've seen people where they'll take a job that they hate over one that they would love just because it has insurance benefits.
Yeah.
But you're actually going to need all that medical treatment because you're in a job that you hate.
Because in the society we live in, people don't understand that your mind actually controls the functioning of your body, and you can make yourself sick
Yes.
or make yourself well. So,
Exactly.
If you don't understand that, it's a shame, because it's very, very important.
Oh, hi, Bruce. I just saw Bruce tune in. Sorry, everybody, if I'm not acknowledging the chatting thing off to the right here, it's because I'm just so used to doing interviews, like, whether they're recorded or national radio or whatever, and I'm not having to follow a live chat stream at the same time. Hi, Bruce, you came back. To answer your question, Mike, yes, Dinshaw Ghadiali's spectrochrome system. Yeah, I'm very familiar with that as well. I've used it for a number of things. It actually ties in with this whole model, because what I integrate is work that he's done, work that his predecessor, the guy who he was prompted by, Faber Buren, was kind of the grandfather of a lot of this light therapy, and combine it with the chakra system, the 5-element system, Chinese and Japanese 5-element system, how color energies affect different meridians, which are the energy channels that run through our bodies, which is the foundation of all acupuncture and shiatsu. We actually have these energy lines that, carry information, carry light also, and you can use light therapy to unblock these channels and do all sorts of healing. And you can take colored light, like in the spectrochrome system, and shine it on different areas of the body. So what was I saying before that? I was talking about, before I got sidetracked by the spectrochrome.
Questions?
Yeah.
By the questions?
What? No, we were on it. Now I'm like,
Well, we were just talking about how we
because it's like
we have to be in control, and we have to understand how our bodies work. And what you're saying is that there are healing ways that we can learn.
Yeah, so it's pretty easy because we do get these cravings. So, and one of the things that I often tell people, if they can't figure out, like, I don't know what color I'm drawn to today. I actually used to do this like on a regular basis when I was like, there have been many days where it's like, I don't know what color I'm craving. I have to like kind of, really focus and pay attention. So I've told people, it's like, if you go to my website, where my artworks are, and you just look at, you can get a whole wall of my paintings in thumbnail format on my leannevenier.com page.
They're beautiful.
Thank you. And if you go to the portfolio, then it takes a minute to load, because I have it specifically like this, so they all load onto one page. So you get one page of all these thumbnails, and you can just kind of do a quick scan and see what color is jumping out at you. Is there like one or more colors that are kind of popping off the page at you? It's like, oh my God, I can't stop. This little teal one over here is just calling me. And you'll know, because there will tend to be one or more colors that will just kind of, your eye will be really drawn to. It's like, oh my God, that looks really appealing. And then you click on it and you've got this big image on the screen. And if it feels like it's a nourishing feeling, which usually it will be when you're really strongly drawn to a certain color, then that's like the color energy that you're needing. So all you have to do is like go and get some stuff. Like I have screensavers too, like large screensavers that when anybody that subscribes to either of my websites, leannevenier.com or catalyticcolor.com, you as soon as you subscribe, you get these screensavers that you can save. It's my artwork, but in different colors. You get to choose whichever ones you want. You can download as many as you want, and have those on your desktop, so that if you're needing a boost of energy, for example, you're feeling like tired, it's like Friday afternoon or Monday morning, whatever day
Some
it is.
people drink coffee. You look at a red
Yes.
painting.
Yeah. Well, it does the exact same thing,
Right.
because when you drink coffee, it stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. It stimulates that same fight or flight response.
But it seems to sustain you. It seems to give you something that people get elsewhere, but without the benefits. Your colors that you use benefit you.
Yeah. Well, they can benefit anybody. They're
Right.
in my.
I understand, but we can actually see you doing it every day, because every day you post what you're doing, you post your paintings, you post, and we can actually see someone who's actually doing it and benefiting from it every day.
Yeah, but people you don't have to create paintings to be able to get the same kind of benefit from color. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yes, I understand. But when the flow training program that you teach does benefit everyone every day.
When you combine color, so like we've talked about, all the benefits of color, flow state, all of those benefits that I was talking about in the brain, the enhanced memory, learning, empathy, self-awareness, introspection, calmness, less stress, less anxiety. That, together with all of these huge benefits of color, which also have these same kind of properties, we haven't even talked about that yet, you put them together and it's like the sum of the parts is greater than the whole, which is why I'm always amazed at how when people who do the workshop are like, for many of them, they haven't felt that experience of having this part of their brain turn back on in years, some of them decades. I mean, and it like I don't even know how to describe it. It just, like, the way that they describe it, it feels amazing. And you tap in, you get reconnected. And from a Western, like scientific standpoint, they measure these effects in the brain. So that's one of the things I'm big on. There's all kinds of stuff that we've known for thousands of years, like Chinese medicine, and using sunlight for heliotherapy, using that for healing, and all kinds of things that a lot of people no longer pay any attention to, because it's like, well, if it's not proven by science, then it's woo-woo. But so what I do, because I come from an engineering background, I used to be a mechanical engineer designing submarines, for anybody who doesn't know that here. So come from that kind of background, where I'm used to dealing with people that, like, if there's not a scientific study to support it, they're like, don't even talk to me about it.
Yeah, because 9 out of 10 doctors recommend, like, we're so used to hearing that. It's
9 out
of 10 doctors recommend that you
spend lots of money on surgery and pills, and take these pills for the rest of your life, because there's no cure. There's no cure for.
And we don't care why you got what you got. We don't care how you got it. We're just going to swallow this.
You eat crap, you don't exercise, it does not matter. You just keep doing the same thing you're doing, and
take 2 of these and don't call me in the morning.
But instead of educating people about simple life changes that they can make, that make profound differences, and then you're not going to need the doctor as often, or if ever,
But we're taught to trust doctors. We're taught, we're brainwashed in some way. It's not our fault, I don't want to say, because they're authority, and we listen to authority. We're trying to do the right thing, trying to take care of ourselves. If we don't feel good, we go to a doctor. Please give us an antibiotic, because that's what we think we need.
Well, yeah, and we could get.
But you're saying that going into flow or going into these states will give us the ability to think clearer, to make better decisions about ourselves, our bodies, our health, and we'll feel great.
Yes, yeah, you do. So besides all of these brain benefits, there are documented healing effects in the body. Like, people can heal themselves from all of these different things, looking at color, shining color on your body, looking at art, creating art. One of the things that's really noticeable for most people, even when you do this the very first time, I mean, you just feel your body feels different. It feels calmer, more relaxed, and you have more energy at the same time. So you don't have this agitated energy,
Right.
you have this calmness, but you're energized. It's
That little you don't have to take that little bottle that they tell you to take. Did you see those in the pharmacy? What are those little bottles that they drink? 12-hour energy or something like that. What is that? I would never take that. Do you see those?
Oh, those little caffeine boosters?
Yeah. Well, I don't know what those are. They scare me. They're just like little things. They say 12-hour energy.
Real burnout from taking stuff like that.
What is that?
Yeah. Well, usually there's like caffeine, and they have certain herbs like gotu kola and things like that. If I'm thinking
So we have people who are exhausted just shooting those little.
Yeah, you actually. It's like, have you ever had, that one extra cup of coffee that you really shouldn't have had, and then you
get jittery.
Too jittery, and it's like I found that, like, I love coffee. I love coffee. And
I love coffee too.
I can have 1 cup a day, and I make one really good pour over cup of coffee, and with organic, freshly ground, locally roasted beans, and it's like amazing. And they're like, I really want another one. But I know from experience, if I have a second cup, then I go, and then I can't focus, I can't concentrate, because I've got, like, I'm in that
right. But if your body's working correctly,
mm-hmm.
everything is flowing, your mind is clear.
Yes.
You're not going to be depleted of your energy because you're thinking clearly.
Yes.
You're not running around going, I can't go, I can't do it. That's, a lot of us are in that state going, I'll never finish everything. I'll never get everything done. There's too much to do. A lot of us do that because we're just so stressed.
The anxiety, I mean, that's pretty, a big problem with a lot of people. And the anxiety comes from, you get stressed out about something, you have thoughts that you think are real, and then it becomes this vicious loop where you believe the thoughts, and then it turns into a story, and then it turns into a more dramatic story. And it's that fight or flight response that's getting triggered over and over again. Oh my God, if I don't, clean the house before this group of people comes over, I'm going to be like, it's going to be like death. I'm going to die.
Disaster. It's going to be a disaster.
All of these terrible things. And there are a number of studies that have also been done about, how we have these responses to group expectation, because it was a survival mechanism. We kind of needed to be part of the tribe, because it was, you literally, if you got kicked out of the tribe, you probably weren't going to live very long. So you needed to be in this group. And there's even somebody that did a study on shame recently. So when you feel shame from a group, it's like you feel like, I have to fix this. I have to do something. I feel,
there was a TED talk on that. I think it was very good.
Oh, was there? I haven't seen
shame.
It. Okay. I'm wondering, did you send me that?
I might have.
I don't think. I'm pretty sure I read it. I remember.
I read it too.
Format.
We read the same stuff. Some of the same stuff.
But anyway, so.
But we're always either stressed because of what we're watching on the news, stressed because, things get harder all the time. They don't seem to get easier.
Well, but that's perception. I mean,
right. But that's because we're always trying to keep up. And we're always trying to do more, and we're always trying to get ahead. It's society that we live in. I mean, not everybody lives that way. Some people, I guess, throw their hands up in the air and don't shower, but Well, I know,
but you always have a choice. Like for me, for example, like I make a choice to, even when I have a lot of stuff that I need to get done, and I'm like, I love what I do for work, but like I have a hard shut off time of 10 p.m. Like, and then no electronics, no computer. So I get off of I don't like, I'll sometimes watch streaming video, but I have a screen thing that gets rid of the blue that's being emitted from my screen, so it doesn't stimulate me and doesn't keep me awake. But
that's another thing you have to tell people about. That's major.
Oh, yes. Okay. So let's talk about the blue light, because I never got
major. Yeah.
And I'm feeling drawn to addressing this question over here right now. Oh my, this mouse hibernates all the time when I ignore it for a while. Let's see. I'm going to pin this question. So this is from Mike Broadwell. Is what you're calling flow the same as Mike call coherence? Hi, Mike. Thanks for your question. So the coherence is a huge thing when you're talking about light and the way that our bodies use light. Now, so this ties in with the biophotonics, biophysics research that's been going on around the world. So this guy, Dr. Fritz Albert Popp in Germany, starting in the 1970s, he realized, well, actually, he didn't realize it. Alexander Gurevich in 1922 discovered accidentally through an experiment that he was doing that plants communicate through light. So they actually can communicate with each other, and he discovered that they were communicating through UVB. Without getting into a lot of
Pop proved it.
Pop proved it with technology.
Scientific, right.
So Gurevich proved it, but we didn't have any technology
data
that could measure it. So Pop, he had a PhD student he was whatever you call that. It was
lab tech, I think she was.
So it was one of his students, and he was very fascinated by the work that Alexander Gurevich had done, about the fact that these plants communicate with light. So he wanted to do research on this, and his PhD student was arguing with him. He said, it's impossible that we communicate with light, that our cells communicate with light. And so Pop said, well, you build me a machine that proves that that our cells do not communicate with light. And so the PhD student, and I can't remember his name, but he ended up building a machine which by default proved that our cells do communicate with light. So because you can't build a machine to prove that something doesn't work if it actually true. So he ended up building this machine, a photomultiplier, which then was able to measure that our DNA, our individual cells, all the way down to the level of DNA, our DNA emits light. So our bodies take in light. They take in incoherent light from the sun. So incoherent light means, how can I explain this? I'm used to having a picture.
Where's your graph? Where's that great plastic graph that you always have? Where's that piece of paper with the colors?
My rainbow?
Yeah.
I don't have my rainbow with me.
You're not prepared.
This is a different thing. Okay, so I'm going to draw a picture. So we have, because remember when we were doing it on the Guy MTV thing?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I was trying to explain coherence, and she's like, you keep waving your arms in front of the camera.
Very funny.
I'm trying to show you this is coherence, and this
can't wait to see that.
Yeah. So they're probably gonna cut that out. Me waving. Okay. So we have. Oh, is this going to be too bright? Okay. So say that's a wavelength of light. It's very poorly drawn. Let's say. So that's say that's red light, and then we've got some blue light here. Whoops. So just using these two examples. So when you have the two of them together, see the bottom there, where you've got different wavelengths of light that are all kind of bunched together. They're all kind of doing their own thing. They're moving at their own pace. The wavelength means the length, literal length of the wave. So when you have all of these different colors that are coming from sunlight, they're just kind of coming and doing their own thing in their own wavelength, and they're not in sync with each other. So when you take light, like in a laser, for example, laser light is coherent light. So then you have, in coherent light, you have one color, and you have all of the different wavelengths that are in sync with each other. And I'm just going to show you this here in a second. So these are, let's say this is red light. whoops, here at the bottom. And those are now in sync with each other. What happens, so this is tying back with the heart math question, when you have coherence, there's this effect of the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. There's an additive effect. So the power of the light actually, and that's, if you didn't see me draw it, you're probably like, what the heck is that? But basically those wavelengths add up and they become much more powerful. So that's why you can get laser light, which is coherent light, and there are degrees of coherence as well, which is why you can have really strong lasers and less strong lasers. But so laser light, coherent light is not what we're designed to take in naturally, but you can use it for surgery and things like that. I don't ever recommend it for using it for treating the body because LED light is safer, it's incoherent, and it's how we're designed to take in this light. But to go back to Mike's question, so what happens in the body, we take in this incoherent light, we absorb it through our eyes, through our skin, and through our energy field, and it comes into our body and it becomes coherent light. So it turns into coherent light. So it becomes this very powerful type of light. So Dr. Fritz Albert Popp discovered this. And healthy cells emit a high degree of coherence, like astronomically coherent, like way more coherent than the strongest laser light that he's ever made. So, and without getting into a lot of physics explanation about that, suffice it to say that we take this incoherent light from sunlight. We are designed to live and thrive under sunlight, just like plants. And when you get that natural light coming into your body, a healthy body turns it into coherent light. And then that's what's used for the cellular communications that are happening in the body. So our cells are constantly doing things. I mean, there's all the millions and millions of activity that, things that are happening, processes that are happening in the body every single second. And the old model, Western model about chemistry, and you've got these receptor sites, and you've got these molecules that are kind of bouncing around randomly, and they just happen to fit into this square receptor site for a square. It's just ridiculous, because statistically speaking, the probability of that thing finding the right place to plug into, first of all, is so it's not statistically realistic, that model. So they know that that's not really what's happening anymore. But the way that your cells actually are communicating via the speed of light, there's this instantaneous communication, and they know this. They've actually done, when was it, 2000, just a few years ago, it was right before I was giving a talk, a study on plants. So I compare us to plants often. We're very similar. Chlorophyll and blood are extremely similar in structure, and plants are not as complex organisms. But first of all, I don't know if anybody is familiar with, I'm going to poll the audience. Does anybody know that different wavelengths of light can be used to grow plants? Like they'll have red grow light bulbs, blue grow light bulbs, green grow light bulbs, and each of those different wavelengths will do different things for the plant. So some of them will make the leaf grow, some will make them the germination period, some will make them bud and flower. So different wavelengths have different effects on plants. So, and they know this. So people that grow marijuana are really familiar with this, because they're usually doing that indoors where people can't see them. It's not like
steal it.
It's like they can't be out farming. Well, now they can, but so anyway, so we're very similar. We use different wavelengths of light for different properties. So when you have coherence, like when there's this energy in the body, this coherent light, that's a sign of a healthy body. And the way that the whole Heart Math Institute, I mean, we actually communicate. We have this energy field around our hearts that is putting out signals all the time. Emitting. Yeah, it's emitting signals, energy. So that's how you can kind of tune in with people. And that's the thing about empathy. When you're able to tune in with another person, you're kind of connecting with them. You can feel that heart connection if you are in tune with them, and you
But
actually
you have
feel
to
it.
be, I think people on the same frequency understand each other better or are comfortable around one another. And that's really what it's all about. It's being able to be on the same wavelength, so they say, and it feels good.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
more
yeah.
comfortable.
What are some of the expressions that people use? You know, we're on the same wavelength.
Right.
I mean, that's a very common one. You know,
Because it really does mean that their mind. I believe that thoughts emit wavelengths, and is that proven? Did they prove that?
About what?
That thoughts emit wavelengths?
Well, yes. I'm going to take this question away because we kind of answered that, but we're still a little bit on the topic. But yeah, Dean Radin. Dean Radin is
My favorite.
Do you know him?
Of course. I just read a couple of his books. I have a couple of his books. They're great.
Did I tell you about Dean Radin?
No, I've known about Dean Radin for years.
I can't remember. We've shared so much information. So, Dean Radin has written a number of books. So, Entangled Minds is one of them. So he has
love him.
Found, yes, he's amazing.
He's amazing. He's amazing. Can we go to wherever he is? Let's go. We'll be groupies.
And I had him when I was on the board of directors for Institute for Neuroscience and Consciousness Studies. He was here. And Tom Campbell, another amazing.
My Big Toe?
Huh?
My Big Toe?
Yes, My Big Theory of Everything. Yeah, he's a quantum physicist.
Love him too.
What?
You love him too?
I know you know who he is. I remember that. So Dean Radin has done research about intention and about telepathy and stuff like that, scientific research, where he's is Tom Campbell in Huntsville. I don't know where he is. I can't remember where he lives. But he's got all kinds of YouTube videos that are amazing. They're like every one of his talks goes up on YouTube.
Did he used to work for the Monroe Institute, or am I mixing him up with someone else?
No, it's him. Yeah, he was the along with Bob Monroe, he was the first scientist that was working there. So the Monroe Institute, they do a lot of stuff with hemisync technology, brain balancing using sound frequencies, and for tapping into altered states of consciousness and all sorts of things. And yeah, so Tom Campbell was there from the very beginning.
I'm so excited to meet these people. Where are they? Let's go see them.
I can connect you with them on Facebook.
No, let's get them in a blab.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe we can do that. I don't know. Yeah. Well, we can always ask and see. They're like busy, like, you know, me.
Not busy 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
I make time.
But yeah, it's like we'll have to think about that because that would be a really interesting conversation.
I'd be just sitting here like with my mouth hanging open, going starstruck.
That's kind of the thing. I mean, a lot of people that are teaching all the time and they're going and teaching and giving conferences, and it's like you kind of, anything that gives you more bang for the buck, where you can give a talk and then record it and then share it with other people. That's a more valuable way of sharing information, because it's not just the live, interaction part. It's also the recording that you get to put out in the world afterwards too. So it's a great way to do that especially if you're busy, instead of repeating the same thing over and over again. Here, it's like, here, watch this video. I have other videos on YouTube, by the way. There's one where I have lots of slides, color consciousness and healing, the healing effects of color, light, and art. That one, that's got a lot of pictures. So if you have any questions about some of the stuff that we've talked about, there are a number of things that are covered in there. I don't think, did I talk about flow? I talked about spirituality and consciousness and stuff like that. I may have touched on flow in that. I'm not sure if I covered very much. But going back to the blue light, because I wanted to answer that question. So blue light, because we did evolve to live under sunlight, blue light is found within sunlight. Blue light, when we take it in through our eyes, has a very strong effect on the body. It was only in 2001 that they discovered this new photoreceptor in the eyes. So everybody knows about rods and cones, cones that see color, and then rods for night vision, among other things. But there's a new photoreceptor. I call it a blue light photoreceptor, just to make it easy for people to remember. And they're not sure if it does other things, but they do know for a fact that what it does is it's attuned to certain wavelengths of light in the blue spectrum, which happen to correspond to the color of a clear blue sky. So when we see this kind of light, it's something like 446 to 477 nanometers. It changes sometimes. Some people say 466 to 477. Anyway, but in around that narrow range of blue light, when we see that color of blue light, it communicates with the pineal band, and it tells our body it's the middle of the day, be wide awake. So it immediately shuts off melatonin production in our body. So melatonin, most people know about it as being connected with sleep. They have melatonin pills that you can take. So melatonin is a really important hormone in the body. It's like a profoundly important hormone. It's not only responsible for making us sleepy or wakeful, it also is a super powerful antioxidant. So it is responsible for keeping us healthy and not getting cancer and other things like that. And by the way, our bodies are getting cancer. We get cancer all the time. It's just a normal part of the cellular process. It's a way of the cells dying. So everybody is always getting cancer, and a healthy body gets rid of those cancer cells quickly, before they ever kind of get out of control. So it's when the host is in a perfect condition for the cancer to thrive, that's when cancer develops. But cancer is kind of a normal part of the whole, way that our body operates. But again, a healthy body will not allow it to proliferate. So melatonin, having proper melatonin levels is really important to having that process of when cancer cells form, they get, get out of here, they basically die off. So, and there have been studies that have shown that even when people that do have cancer, if you increase your melatonin levels, and you can do this artificially by taking melatonin pills, it will actually slow down the growth of cancer and or stop it. And naturally at nighttime, cancer cell growth declines. So they've tracked this. So it's very closely tied in with melatonin levels. Vitamin D levels, that's another thing that we get from sunlight. So when you go out under sunshine and you get sun on your skin without sunscreen, then your body can produce vitamin D3, which is very important for vitamin D, by the way, again, is another hormone. It's a misnomer to call it a vitamin because it's actually another really important hormone. So when you have low vitamin D levels, your probability of dying from anything is exponentially higher. Yes. And it's inversely proportional. So low vitamin D levels, the lower your vitamin D levels, the higher your risk of death by anything. That includes all types of cancer, all types of, heart disease, anything. It's all.
I wonder if they ever did a statistic that shows that people who live in climates where there's no sun or less sun. I'm sure they've done it.
I wanted to point out that Bruce, he's helping me. He's being my producer here. He just posted a link on my website about blue light. Blue light, why is it so important? Because I'm sure I'll forget to tell you some things that are covered on that page. Thanks, Bruce. I wish I could give you one of those little, whatever those hand things are. I guess they're a double high five. I taught my cat to give high five. Did I tell you that?
You told me, yes. But you didn't tell everyone else in the room.
I taught my cat to do high five. Just shake a paw, which was the first thing I taught her. And then I taught her high five because it's let's get modern here. High five. Fist bump. And she sits and she comes when I call her to a whistle. When I whistle, she comes. And
do pets need the same thing? Do pets need
Yes. That's why you always see animals that are allowed to go outside. They bask in the sun. They love being in the sun, like all animals. because they take in that sunlight and all the colors and the UV and the infrared that comes from sunlight, and it's all got different healing properties. So yeah, and I don't know what happens with pets that are kept indoors. It's kind of like humans, that the only time they ever go outside and then they put sunscreen on their bodies, and often the sunscreens are very toxic. They actually, a lot of, I can't remember what the percentage is. It's some ridiculously high number, like 80% of sunscreens on the market, it may be 85, are carcinogenic.
That kills me, because I used to lather my kids in it when they were little.
Yeah.
You're going to get a sunburn. It's really bad for you. Come.
Yeah. So just to talk a little bit about, so sunshine is very important. You don't want to get a sunburn. You want to get what's called chronic sunshine, chronic sun exposure. So you want to get a little bit of sun exposure each day. And depending on your skin tone, the number of minutes that you need to stay out under the sun, again, without sunscreen, and the amount of skin you have that's exposed to sunlight, that all determines how many minutes that you have to stay out. So it actually, the best thing is to have like at least 2/3 to 3/4 of your body exposed.
But what happens to people who don't have the ability to do that? Is there something that they can do?
Yeah, well, what do you mean? People that are in cloudy climates?
A lot of people work indoors. They go to work. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. They get out of work at 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah, well, then I tell people that work indoors in an office that lunch break, they can't make you work nonstop for 8 hours. Just make sure you go outside and get sun during a lunch break.
Is there anything artificial that they can do?
Well, as far as replicating sunlight, I don't know of any kind of artificial light source. The benefit they do know this from research, that when you get UVA light together with UVB, the damaging properties of each of them tend to cancel each other out. So you want to get UVA and UVB together. UVA is the longer, can penetrate more deeply. UVB is shorter. That's what promotes vitamin. Oh wait, sorry, I have that backwards.
UVB.
No, that's right. UVB, UVA. Sorry, it's like one of them. UVB does not come through glass. UVA does come through glass. So if you're like sitting next to a window with glass, you're going to get the color wavelengths which come through, and you're going to get UVA, but you will not get UVB. So UVB is the shorter one, yeah. And that's actually a problem, because if you only get UVA without the UVB, your probability of getting skin cancer from getting chronic exposure to just the UVA is higher. But in any case, skin cancer, it can be deadly, but it's one of the most treatable types of cancer that there is. Any other kind of cancer, your probability of dying is extremely high. And they know that lack of sun exposure, again, is inversely correlated to, and this isn't even necessarily related to the vitamin D production. This is just, they've done studies. They did 20,000 women, I think, in Sweden. It was some ridiculously high number that they tracked for over 10 years. And the probability of them dying early from any cause went up directly. Less sun exposure, probability, high probability.
What about places where there's, the sun is less hours in the day and the climate is?
Well, we actually evolved to account for that. That's why people from northern climates, people from places that don't get a lot of sun, that are, have very short summers, their skin is extremely fair. And it's the body is designed that way to optimize the minimal amount of sunlight that they're getting. So it makes your skin super sensitive to sunshine, because you need to be able to maximize that minimal amount of exposure that you get. So that's why it makes it very sensitive. People with fair skin produce the vitamin D. I mean, you're likely to get a burn much more quickly, but you need less exposure to the sun to get the same amount of vitamin D production as somebody with dark skin. somebody with dark skin needs to be under the sunlight for a lot longer to be able to get the same amount of vitamin D production. And our bodies actually take and store vitamin D. So you can, if you get chronic sun exposure during the months when the sun is shining, we're designed to take that.
What about the pill? What about the vitamin D3 pill?
Well, you can, that's what, it's fine for a lot of people if they aren't getting enough sun exposure. The best way to get vitamin D production that the body can assimilate most effectively is through sunlight exposure. But if you're not getting enough, then definitely take a vitamin D supplement. Drops are really good. You can, it's highly unlikely for people to take too much because most
Can you
people
OD on it? Because I read statistics that said there's no, you can't, one lady did vitamin D research for a very long time. She said you can't OD on it.
Well, you can if you're taking a huge amount in artificial vitamin D. You can't overdose on naturally produced vitamin D because our bodies store it in a way that it's like this reservoir of vitamin D. It's impossible to get too much vitamin D production that's produced naturally in the skin. You can, from what I've read and from the reports that I've seen, but the levels are so high and most people are so dramatically deficient already.
Yeah, they're so deficient. They give you 50,000 tablets that are like 50,000 units of vitamin D. You ever see those? Are like these black tablets at 50,000 units.
Yeah,
people
I don't.
Take 1,000. People take 5,000. There's 10,000.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're going to take it, the recommended dosage is on the low end. I mean, a lot of times they say 1,000 or 2,000 milligrams a day. That's not enough. I mean, 8,000 is kind of the minimum that you're going to, if you're going to take it every day. And then if you're treating cancer and you want to really give the body a boost, you go up into much higher levels. I actually did a whole paper on it. But yeah, so, but going back to natural sunlight, I mean, that's kind of like the best possible way to have that exposure. You get all the benefits because it's not just the UVA, the UVB, and the infrared. It's all of those colored wavelengths. So, you know, we talked about blue. I mean, we talked about red. Some of the other benefits of blue light, besides, you know, telling your body when to be when it should be wide awake. I mean, because if you're feeling sleepy, go out under natural daylight and it will perk you up. It gets rid of stress and anxiety. All of this is documented. It reduces all of these problems. It heals the body. It's like flow state. You know, when you're able to tap in and get into that state where your body is, the stress levels go down, your brain is activated, all these parts of your brain are activated, and people have healed their bodies just from getting into flow state on a regular basis. I have a lot of people that take my workshops are actually taking them primarily for healing purposes. Other people take them for creativity. Some people take them for productivity because you get 500% increased productivity when you're tapped in and you're in that laser focus mode. You get this, you plow through work. Another thing that I discovered through my painting process when I was doing, you know, all the right brain stuff, and then I started teaching at major medical centers and doing conferences and that sort of thing, and I'm reading thousands of medical research studies, which are kind of dry and not very, you know, it's not like
technical.
You know, yeah, very technical and very jargony and very very left brain. Lots of analysis, lots of, you know, processing data. But what I found was that because I trained my brain to get into flow state through my right brain activity, I was getting into flow state doing all this left brain stuff. So it was kind of like it was opening up this channel where you could be in both at the same time. So you can still have this uber focused, you know, clarity, power through everything, and
your concentration was boosted.
Your concentration is much greater, but you also get these insights that come from like out of nowhere. Like you get these ideas, these innovative ideas that pop into your head, and you're able to see this big picture view. So they know that like top executives, McKinsey did a study on all these top executives. They analyzed how they performed in flow state, and they found that they were 500% more productive when they're operating in flow state, meaning that you get 5 times the amount of work done. So you could work on Monday, get a full week's worth of work done, and, you know, take the rest of the week off if you want. You're probably not going to be able to if you're like the CEO, but anyway, you get a lot more, you get way more work done.
I would assume that the companies are calling you and ask you to come in and give these presentations.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start doing that after I've like, right now I'm working with lay people and executives and people that come in and do the training with me. Thanks, Bruce. See you later. So I'm kind of combining everybody together. I have like business people, psychotherapists. I've got, you know, doctors that come in, do the training. I've got just regular people. I've got retired people. So we're all working together, but I'm going to start doing, targeted business applications and teaching groups in corporate.
Most people want a workforce that is focused, and they don't want to hire extra people to do the work. So, right.
Well, a recent poll, and IBM did a poll with 1,500 top executives, all CEOs of different companies, and they asked them what they felt the number one leadership trait was, and they all said creativity. Creativity is one of the number one leadership traits, and to be able to innovate.
And I think that's one of the things that people are lacking the most now, because they're not looking within, they're looking outside for further information, not within.
Yeah, it's a lot of like data and like relying on data, and people relying on people saying, oh, you should take this supplement, or you should do this, or you should try this technique, or you should do whatever it is. That it's like a lot of people
being spoon-fed.
Yeah, and some of those things may work, you know, and especially in the case of supplements, you can't just give a blanket, you know, here, this is going to work and help you. Like there are a lot of brain boosting things, and they work for some people and they don't work as well for others. It really depends on what's going on in your body, how you're going to respond. Even eating certain foods, like certain spices are very healing for certain people, you know, like they just are a good thing in general. Like, you know, there's a lot of talk about cinnamon and black pepper and all of these things, and they have all these healing properties, garlic. And but if you have a lot of excess heat in your body and you start taking those kind of supplements, herbs, spices that are very heat generating, it actually can cause more health problems for you because you're out of balance. So you have too much heat in your body already. So even though by definition that's a healthy thing, it is a good thing, if you are in a state that you have too much heat in your body and you put all of this hot stuff in your body, it will make those conditions worse. It's just like with, you know, red, being in a room full of red, or that the walls are all painted red. If you're already stressed out and you go into a room that's all red, you're going to be like, I have to get out of here, because it's like having 3 extra cups of coffee. If you're already stressed out, you're like, now you go into a red room. Anyway, so everything. You have to look at the whole system. You can't just isolate one thing. So that's what I like about, you know, when you tap into flow, it's not a magic pill. You're getting all the answers from inside, and you're tapping into this limitless information source. It's not like, here, take a pill for that and have a technique and a productivity tool for this. It's like it does all of that because you tap into this source of energy, and you're just like, you're plugged in, and you're not using your own energy anymore. You're channeling this energy. So anyway,
I just think that we need to learn to think for ourselves what's right for our own bodies, and do the research and take the time.
Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things about, okay, so if you you know, you were talking about Dean Radin. I never did finish talking about Dean Radin. I got off on a tangent and never like circled back. So Dean Radin. But when you look at how our minds communicate with each other, how we are able to communicate telepathically with each other. We also are able to tune in and what's called our intuition, you know, tap into that intuition. And our bodies and, you know, our psyches always know what's good for us. So, for example, you might have read, oh, I should eat this food, it would be really good for me, or I should eat this, you know, take this supplement, it would be really good for me. But then you're kind of like, oh, I'm not really drawn to taking it, but I'm going to do it anyway because I read this article. And then you start taking it and something else starts happening. You don't even make the connection that it's related to the same.
Right. There are some people that don't like dairy. They just don't like it. There are some people that don't like meat. They just don't like it. They don't feel it's right for them.
Right.
You have to listen to your body.
Yeah, you listen to your body. So one of the abilities that you get when you're tapping into flow state regularly is you're able to hear, listen to, and trust your intuition. So if you, like, even driving down the road, like, I feel like this is the road that I normally go. I'm supposed to take this road, but, you know, like, I feel like today I need to go on another way. So listen to that, you know, because usually there's a reason for it. And a lot of times, if we're able to hear our intuition, this is where the synchronicity thing comes in, because we end up having these synchronicities that happen. We're putting out this energy, these coincidences, what we think are coincidences are happening, where we get all of these opportunities that land in our lap, or, you know, you meet somebody, you happen to be thinking, I need to do this thing to grow my business, or whatever it is that you want to do in your life. Or I want to be able to, you know, even like I want to buy a red car, and you're like, I don't know where to get a red car. So I'm just trying to think of some example. And then you go to an event that evening, and somebody comes up to you and says, hey, how's it going?
Right.
You're like, oh yeah, I'm just like enjoying the party.
We always said the universe, we always say,
oh my God, I have a red car that I'm trying to sell.
The universe is trying to tell us something. The universe is trying to help us. The universe is trying. That's how we always say.
Yeah. So anyway, but you tap into that. You tap into that sort of thing, and you have these things that happen that you are beyond statistical probability, and you attract all these opportunities into your life, and it's all. So it's kind of like this one magic pill thing. So I wanted to add one thing about the way that some corporations are familiar with the effects of color on us and on their employees. So like Google Corporation, I gave a talk for South by Southwest Interactive last year, and it was all about using color for triggering flow state, and about the importance of using both the left and right hemispheres of the brain and integrating them and using all of that in business. So when you are able to have more color in your work environment, like Google does. If you've ever seen pictures of Google, have you ever seen photos of their offices?
I don't think so.
When I did my slideshow, I had like they have color everywhere. They have color in all the office spaces, in the playrooms that they have, and they have mandatory downtime where the employees can't be sitting at their desk working all the time. They actually have to take time and go and just do some kind of not creative activity, but like something mindless, like doing, you know, playing a game or something like that, something that allows them to shut that left brain off and then do something that allows them to get into that creative side. And they're surrounded by color because they know that color stimulates creativity, stimulates flow state. So it's really important. And a lot of companies don't think about that sort of thing at all. They have gray cubicles. I mean, when I worked for Lockheed, our cubicles were gray. There was no color. Like in the walls, I think were this beige or taupe or something. It was just like, you walked in and it was so not appealing to go in there or even stay. And then fluorescent lights, not very many windows. It was just very, and yeah, I got sick all the time when I was working there, and I'm a very healthy person. I was just like, it was not a good environment for me to be in. But
well, it's the thing where they have the pink jail cells too, where they figured out if they put people in jail for the first 30 minutes, they're real agitated, and they put them in a pink cell.
Yeah.
And it calms them down very rapidly.
And supposedly also weakens their muscles. So if they put people in there if they're very volatile and they want to fight, put them in, and they actually get physically weaker. Okay, I'll just shut off the recording again for that. So anyway, I just wanted to add that part about Google and that corporations, some corporations, and Google's kind of taking over. I mean, they're pretty big.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, they are.
they kind of know these things. There are certain secret weapons, like being able to tap into that creativity, being able to get into flow state, having color in your environment. Some companies are already on that path. In Europe, it's much more commonly known. I mean, they have lighting systems that are adjustable lighting where you can amp up the blue light in the morning because, like I remember I was saying, how blue light, it shuts off melatonin production. So shutting off melatonin production during the day is actually a very good thing. You don't want to be getting sleep in the middle of the day. You want to be wide awake and alert. Getting blue light at night is a real problem though. And I didn't even talk about that before, but all of these devices that we have, LED screens, and mine is very, it looks like, but anyway, they all emit a very high percentage of blue light. And when you use any of these or your computer, anything like that, you see this blue light and it's shining directly into your eyes, and your body, your eye cells that sense this blue light can't tell the difference between blue light that's coming from an LED device or that same wavelength of blue light that's coming from sunlight. So you see blue light from a screen, it looks white, but it's got a high percentage of blue. As soon as you see that, it tells your body it's the middle of the day, shut off melatonin production. So that's why, since LED, smartphones, tablets, all of these electronic devices that have LED screens, so many people have been suffering from insomnia. And then that causes a whole host of other problems that your brain, first of all, I mean, because we've been talking a lot about brain and the science and all the research behind this, your brain doesn't have time at night to go into deep sleep. And that's when the brain actually has this restorative effect. So it's designed, I kind of made a metaphor where I talk about, it's like the time where your brain does its nightly defrag. If you've ever had a computer and you've had it for a couple of years and it starts to get slower and slower and slower and slower and slower because the data is all like kind of jumbled up, you have to do a system defrag. And by doing the system defrag, all those packets of information get put back into order, and it gets consolidated in a way. You have all this extra memory space that gets freed up because you're kind of putting everything into order. It's like, you know, you have a big pile of books that are thrown in the living room floor and they're just all jumbled up. If you pick them up and you put them into order, they take up a lot less space. They're very organized. So that's what happens in your brain every night when you go into deep sleep. Your brain actually will do this nightly system defrag kind of. And that's when memories from the day get stored into long-term memory, and you're able to more effectively learn the next day. So there's all of these benefits from deep sleep. And they know that it's related to, when you get deep sleep, you're not going to get Alzheimer's and all these other brain deficiency diseases. And so anyway, you need to get good sleep. So if you're getting blue light at the wrong time of day, and that was on the page that Bruce posted earlier that's in the live chat feed, like on my blue light page, if you get it at night, it's a bad thing. But you want to have blue light during the day, because when you get blue light during the day, that's what sets your circadian rhythm. It tells you, oh, okay, blue light, middle of the day. And then when you get blue light during the day, you get sleepy at night. As long as you're not like getting blue light more and more, because then your body's like, it's still the middle of the day. It's still the middle of the day. I don't know what time it is anymore. So anyway, do you have any questions about the blue light?
Yeah, well, there's so much. There's been studies too of even putting, I think, blue street lights out at night, and it calms the crime levels down. Or and blue light in the day will increase the activity in the classroom.
Was that, well, yeah, you have to, and you can't have too much of it though, because it's kind of like an effect. But I remember that, were they doing that in the UK with the blue street lights somewhere? I believe so, yeah. Because I remember reading it and I'm like, that's not good for people sleeping. That's, yeah, it's not a good thing for people to be out under blue light at night, because it's telling your body it's the middle of the day. It's anytime you try to simulate sunshine like that. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to end the recording now, finally. So I'm going to say goodbye.